Olive Dell Ranch, Making Sense of the Senseless. Part 1, How the Community at Olive Dell Ranch is Grappling with Loss and Finding Resilience. By Evan Nix. Tragedy has a way of revealing the strength of a community, and its fragility. 3 weeks ago, Olive Dell Ranch was thrust into an unimaginable tragedy when longtime residents Stephanie and Daniel Menard disappeared, setting off a community-wide search that ended in heartbreak. The discovery of their deaths, and the devastating realization that someone from within their own community was responsible, sent shockwaves through the close-knit group. Amid a national media flurry sensationalizing the events, what was once a haven for connection and freedom has been rocked by senseless violence, leaving residents to grieve the loss of cherished members who had long been a fixture of daily life at Olive Dell. As the community comes together to mourn, this tragedy has also laid bare deeper tensions that have been festering for months. Recent management changes, legal disputes, and ongoing conflicts between members and owners had already strained relationships, and now, under the glare of the media spotlight, those divisions feel more exposed than ever. For some, this devastating event has only deepened the fractures, making unity harder to find. Yet among the grief and uncertainty, many residents are holding on to each other, seeking solace in shared memories and the desire to preserve the spirit of community that brought them to Olive Dell Ranch in the first place. As they remember the Menards, Olive Dell is forced to confront both the wounds of this tragedy and the tensions that have resurfaced, with the path forward still uncertain. A community grieves. The Menards were beloved members of the Olive Dell community, known for their warmth and generosity. Reflecting on their impact, current owner Brian Cleland described the couple as longtime tenants and great people. Stephanie, 73, was a regular at poker nights, always helping others learn the game, while Dan, 79 and a pastor, led Easter services at the ranch's outdoor chapel, offering comfort and spiritual guidance. For many, the Menards were the heart and soul of Olive Dell, a representation of everything the community stood for. Former Olive Dell co-owner and manager Becky Kilburn recalls how Dan took pride in leading the Easter sunrise service each year. He loved being in charge of it and would always give an amazing sermon, she said, adding that the couple was always ready and willing to help with events. Chris Hernandez, a full-time resident at Olive Dell for 5 months, fondly remembers Dan in a somewhat paternal way, riding down the hill each evening on his golf cart with Cuddles, his loyal Shih Tzu, by his side. He'd come down and tell all us kids to stay out of trouble, Chris recalled to Planet Nude. He also remembers Stephanie's consistent attendance at poker on Thursdays and bingo every month, where she was always happy to help teach others the game. Chevy Nelson, a 13-year resident, said to Planet Nude that the community here was what it was all about for the Menards. I think they valued being able to have somewhere they could be nude and participate in activities, while also having the freedom of being close to home since they lived here. The Menards were last seen on August 24th, and the following day, concerned neighbors reported them missing. Their car was found unlocked near their home, with the keys still inside, raising immediate alarm. Inside their house, more unsettling signs appeared. Phones, Stephanie's cane, and Dan's wallet were left behind, and the TV and computer were still on. In the tense days following their disappearance, the couple's remains were discovered beneath a neighbor's house, bringing some answers to the community's grief, though a few details remain unresolved. Among them is the fate of Cuddles, who has yet to be found. Holding on to memories. In the immediate aftermath of the Menards' deaths, the community gathered for a vigil to honor the couple. Chevy Nelson reflected on the emotional significance of the event. It was really sweet of the residents of the canyon to put it together, she says. We even had some donkeys visited this morning. We all think they're paying their respects too. For Nikki Storm, the Menards were close friends. She fondly recalls offering them free medical pedicures and gathering for impromptu karaoke nights. I brought my mic, Bluetooth speaker, and cell phone to the clubhouse. Stephanie and a few others gathered to sing. We had a blast. We were chastised later on and threatened with bogus eviction notices for unauthorized clubhouse activities, but we didn't care. It was fun. Nikki also reminisces about the Keisel Palace gatherings just outside Olive Dell, where the Menards would join in for pool parties, games, and crockpot cook-offs on Friday evenings. Dan and Steph were regulars at Kysel Palace, where we could relax and escape from the increasing restrictions within the resort. For Chevy, the loss is also deeply personal. "I would play poker with Stephanie," she recalls. "They weren't just our neighbors, they were part of our lives." The simple, shared moments of connection made the Menards an integral part of Olive Dell. As the community attempts to move forward, the tragedy has left residents like Nikki feeling uncertain. Doom and gloom, unsettling, uncertainty, insecure, fear, nauseous, she says of the current atmosphere. It seems, at least for some, as though the tragedy has only deepened many of the rifts that were already forming within the community, leaving many to question how the ranch can recover from both personal loss and broader divisions. The spark that shocked. The media has painted Michael Roy Sparks, the man accused of killing the Menards, as a quiet loner, someone who kept to himself during his years at Olive Dell. Resident Nikki Storm echoes this sentiment. Sparky seemed to be a loner. He would attend some events, but was always walking, getting his exercise in. He had been living at Olive Dell for well over 30 years, Becky Kilburn told Planet Nude. "Yes, he was quiet, but a lot of people up there are. He was always polite to us, and we never had any major issues with him." She remembers Sparks attending a small gathering at her house as recently as July, where he celebrated a neighbor's birthday. "He sat and visited with us for several hours. It's still hard to believe everything that's happened." The discovery that Sparks had built a hidden bunker beneath his mobile home has only added to the shock. The concrete space, large enough for a person to stand in, according to Redlands police, was uncovered during the search for the Menards, after law enforcement tore into Sparks' home with heavy equipment. Police found the Menards' remains under the bunker, cementing the horrifying realization that the friendly neighbor many knew as Sparky had been hiding something far darker. Rumors have swirled in the wake of the discovery, with some news outlets falsely suggesting that more bodies were found under Sparks' home, stirring fears that he could have been a serial killer. These reports, however, have been dismissed by authorities. Despite these speculations, no clear motive has been revealed, leaving many in the community, and those following the case from afar, grasping for answers. Sparks just this week entered a not guilty plea through his public defender, waiving his right to a speedy trial, so any hint of a motive may not be known for some time. Among the most persistent media theories is a long-standing feud between Sparks and the Menards over a tree that straddled their property line. Neighbors have reported that Sparks hated the couple, telling others that Dan Menard's regular trimming of the tree's branches infuriated him. However, as others have pointed out, Dan's dementia diagnosis has kept him from doing active yard work for quite some time, at least the last 2 years. While such a dispute may provide a possible point of conflict, it hardly explains the extent of the violence, leaving many to wonder what truly led to the tragedy. Chris Hernandez, who viewed Sparks as more of a familiar presence, is still grappling with the news. "Sparky was always kind and respectful. He had this smile that reached his eyes. I just can't believe he's the one responsible," he says, struggling to reconcile the friendly man he knew with the horrific acts he's now accused of. The media frenzy around the case has only heightened the sense of confusion. With frequent headlines sensationalizing the story and emphasizing the bizarre circumstances of the bunker and the nature of the crime, both Olive Dell residents and outsiders are left searching for a narrative that makes sense in the face of such senseless violence. Meanwhile, what was the home of a close neighbor just 2 weeks ago is now a pile of rubble left by the police, surrounded by a chain-link fence, a mess no one has begun to clean up, a stark symbol of the void felt by the community. Community tensions laid bare. If you talk to people from Olive Dell for long enough, stories emerge: fights at Kysel Palace, RV break-ins, accusations of harassment, and disputes between neighbors. It can be quite emotional for these people for whom this place is the center of their lives. And from the outside, it can be hard to parse the truth. What's clear, however, is that the community has been deeply divided, especially since the recent events. Much of the discord is over recent changes in Olive Dell's management. Chris Hernandez, who has lived at Olive Dell for just 5 months but has been a member for longer, told Planet Nude, "Since I've lived here, it's been a lot different than before the Kilburns left." According to Nikki Storm, factions have formed, with some supporting the new management and some supporting the old management. This led to a lot of heated tension between residents at times. Stephanie had been trying to keep it together, but there was a lot of division, Storm says. Nikki Storm, along with other residents, formed a group in response to sudden rent hikes and erratic policy changes, challenging what they claim are unfair or illegal actions under California's mobile home residency law. "We kind of got our little pool together and got some money," Storm explained, noting they hired a lawyer who issued a cease and desist to management. When harassment persisted, the group escalated to a class action lawsuit alleging unfair business practices. "We had secret meetings, and the group has grown bigger and bigger." Several residents, including Dan and Stephanie Menard, were party to this lawsuit. Chevy Nelson believes the residents group has escalated the conflict. "It started with a concerned resident bringing up valid issues, but instead of giving the new management a chance, it became pitchforks and torches. Now we have an extremist group doing more harm than good." For Storm, the community's atmosphere has become toxic. "The peace and serenity I loved at Olive Dell is gone. I'll always have a target on my back, lawsuit or no lawsuit, no matter the outcome," she said, adding that she plans to leave the ranch. Hope in the fragments. Despite the grief and growing tensions, signs of resilience remain at Olive Dell. Resident Chris Hernandez believes healing is possible if residents focus on unity. "The community has come together really strong, not just in Olive Dell, but in Ricci Canyon and the surrounding cities," he says. Chris is hopeful that the bonds of family and friendship that have always defined Olive Dell will help it recover. Reflecting on what the Menards would have wanted, he adds, "They would want us to stop fighting over pettiness and remember that, as a family of Olive Dell, we will be okay." Former owner Becky Kilburn, for her part, agrees, emphasizing the need to end the division. "Residents text me about the confusion regarding ownership and management. The best way to move forward is for the infighting to stop. The residents need to be on the same page." Nikki Storm offers a different perspective, suggesting that the Menards would have wanted the community to keep fighting against injustices. "Stephanie is looking down on us from heaven above saying, 'Continue the good fight, tell it, yell it, name 'em, shame 'em, don't let the new ODR regime get away with their injustices, I can promise you that.'" Chevy Nelson remains hopeful, saying that despite the divisions, the community is trying to come together. "A group of us checks in on our older residents to make sure they're safe. We're reaching out more and getting involved with the less talked to folks." Ricci Canyon neighbors even helped organize a vigil and locate the estranged family. While the path ahead remains uncertain, some of the spirit of Olive Dell, its resilience and sense of connection, still lingers. If the residents can return to that core, they may find a way forward. As Chris says, "We will be okay and will stand strong." Author's note: attempts to contact the current management of Olive Dell for comment on this article received no response.
We hope you're enjoying Planet Nude. If so, please consider a paid subscription. Your membership comes with exclusive content and supports our work. Subscribe at www.planetnude.co. This episode of Planet Nude Podcast is sponsored by the Naturist Education Foundation, supporting naturist initiatives and preserving naturist history. Learn more at www.naturisteducation.org.